Good day, everybody. Welcome to the lockdown edition of the Frontrunner Sports Podcast. As you can see, we've all kind of taken to Zoom to congregate and meet. Joining me, as usual, I have Mr. Chris Bongo. We have Jonty Mark in the house and Mazola Molefe. Mr. Bongo, I was about to call you by your son's name. I think that's what it is there on the screen. And that's not your name.
It's okay.
Yeah. Stefan Senior. There we go. Stefan Senior joining us. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time on this Monday evening. How are you all getting along or getting on with the shutdown?
I'm training and I'm growing my beer. And I'm looking good. I'm fine. It is tough, but we are here. No football for me is a dead life.
Yeah, no, I feel you. Jonty Mark, how you holding up?
Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, watching reruns basically of football because there's no football unless you are. Apparently, the league is still running in the Eastern European country of Belarus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's about it though. If you can find an internet stream of Belarus, you can maybe watch that live.
Well, I think you're better off watching the reruns. Yeah, no. At least you know what happened when you watch the reruns. Mazola Molefe, what have you been doing? Kids keeping you busy?
Pretty much. Yeah, I'm practicing social distancing from my fridge.
Yeah, no. That's always a challenge in this time. Snacking aplenty. So much.
So I must give a shout out to Frank over there at Orlando Pirates. The fitness trainer. He's given people, some good exercises for the next 21 days under lockdown. I started this morning. Pretty good.
Okay.
I ran around my back garden 30 times today. I did that. It was about 2Ks. Wasn't a bad effort.
Not bad. I got a spinning bike, so that's how I stay in shape.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it helps. And then Mr.
I saw that
really fit.
I saw the Pirates thing that Mazola was talking about there, but the music was so bad that I had to turn it off. What were they playing?
Who was that?
It's the Pirates fitness guy.
Oh, so
cool.
he put the music on it.
Exercises.
Okay. Gents, let's talk very quickly. I see there's a player from Bloem Celtic who's in a bit of trouble for wearing what he says was his friend's South African National Defence Force uniform. That's one way to get into the headlines during the lockdown.
Was it his friend?
Now.
Yeah,
I saw him.
Yeah, it was his friends. It wasn't his uniform.
Yeah, that is even illegal. That is big. That is illegal. How can you? It's like that is illegal. I don't know.
Illegal.
I'm a person, but that is illegal. It looks good in it, but it is illegal.
Well, I know it's illegal. I guess it's against the law, but I mean, what is he really doing? He's just doing a silly video of himself. Right. I saw it now in a army kit, like jumping around. I mean,
it's very silly and innocuous, isn't it?
Honestly, try and find a sense of humour, South African Defence Force. And police. I mean, it's lockdown. People are going to do some nutty stuff. It's really harmless. I honestly don't see the harm in, 10,000 rand fine or like some time in prison. That's a bit ridiculous.
That is.
And yes.
Mazola, do you think the club needs to do anything about it? It seems rather innocent.
Yeah, look, I don't think the club will do anything about it. In fact, the club spokesperson was on Lesedi FM, I think this morning, talking, and he says the issue is now, sort of water under the bridge. He's had a stern talking to, but he was not arrested. Neither was he fined. I think there were rumors about him being fined 10,000 rand or whatever, but he says that's not true. The player has apologized, and it's water under the bridge. I mean, obviously, there's been questions about whether the club will punish him further or will act on it, but they haven't issued out a statement. But judging from what the spokesperson said on Lesedi FM, I think that's about it, really. It happened, I think, last week Friday, and it was sorted. It was, spoken about there and then, and the player apologized, and everybody sort of moved on.
Yeah.
Simple as that. I guess that's all really it should be as far as that one is concerned. Okay, let's keep it moving as far as what else is in the news. And it looks like, obviously, Lesedi Kapinga is definitely moving. The question is, where to? Do you go to teams that have lots of quality and you have this chance of winning silverware? Or do you go somewhere where you're going to be the main man and they look to you to help in, getting something from that season? Your thoughts, gentlemen? I'll start with you, Chris.
Listen, football, many players that I know, in football life, we have 3 stages. The first stage is to make your name. The second stage, if possible, to start winning some silverware. But the third stage is to start making money for your family. So you have to look at yourself, which stage are you in for you to when you're playing football. And those stages come with time and age. So when you're 15, 16, 17, 18, until 21, you're making your name. From 22 to 25, 6, you need to win some silverwares. And after that, you start making ways for you to secure your family's future. I always say to football players, and all the time, playing football is a gig. It's nothing else than a gig, because even if you finish playing football at age 35, your retirement age is 65. So you have 30 years for you to do your career. So football by itself, it is just a high profile, high paid gig. So during that time, you must maximize everything that you need to do. Take your time to study if you have to study, start thinking what you have to do next. And I think in his age, I don't know his real age or what it is, but
he's 24. He's officially 24.
So if he is 24, it is a stage where you want to win things. You want to be called in the national team. You want to be in the team that is winning trophies so that he can be a winner. So he still have time inside. So he will go in a place where he plays more football than sitting on the bench.
Okay, and I mean, Mazola, it seems like he was linked with AmaZulu. Now, word is that it's Mamelodi Sundowns that he's going to. The player himself has come out saying that, he doesn't know what's happening with his future. I guess just kind of playing mum at the moment. As far as you understand, is there something to the Sundown story? Is he headed there? Or is it just speculation?
Look, I thought that story was pretty solid when I first heard and read about it. But after, obviously, it's 2 weeks ago that the player has now since come out to deny that he's actually signed a pre-contract with Mamelodi Sundowns. I did speak to Black Leopards a few weeks ago, trying to get them on the record to confirm whether they tried to give the player a contract extension and whether he denied it, hence the pre-contract, or he rejected it and hence the pre-contract with Mamelodi Sundowns. And they didn't really want to go on the record. Suffice to say, they said they would reveal all at the end of the season, whatever that means. I mean, it leaves a lot to the imagination, obviously. But obviously, for some time we had reported, I had actually reported sometime last year before the Christmas recess that Leopards had started negotiations with the player over an extension, given that his contract would expire in June this year.
Right.
But it looked like he would have been keen on extending because they were offering him an improved contract. It looks like obviously something went wrong along the way, and hence this Sundown story, which, as I said earlier, I thought it was a pretty solid lead. I thought it was a pretty solid story, and then the player came out to deny it. But it, because when the player now comes out and says I haven't signed the pre-contract, I don't know whether he, trying to make sure that he still keeps his place at Black Leopards and carries on being played by coach Alan Clark, or whether it is in fact true that he actually is not going to Mamelodi Sundowns. So it's, leads to a bit of confusion. But as I said, I tried to contact the club to set the record straight, and the club said we can't go on the record at the moment. Suffice, at the end of the season, we will reveal all. Whatever that means.
Okay, and that,
what is the end of the season?
And which club is that? Is that the selling club or the buying club?
No, Black Leopards.
Black Leopards
Are the club, that he currently belongs to.
Yeah.
Obviously, because contract would have expired. I mean, obviously, this was long before the whole coronavirus outbreak, and obviously, we were all thinking the season would end or the contract would end on the 30th of June. But we now know that if FIFA's recommendations, proposals are passed, then that means, the player could potentially stay. Well, not potentially, he will have to stay at his current club a little while longer. Same with George Malule, who obviously has rejected a contract extension at Kaizer Chiefs. His contract would have come to an end on the 30th of June. But now, according to FIFA's proposal, he will have to stick around until the season ends, whenever that is. If the season ends on the 30th of July or the 30th of August, that's how long he will remain a Kaizer Chiefs player. And I assume, obviously, that the same would play out for Kapinga as well. He would stay at Leopards for as long as the season hasn't ended. He is a Black Leopards player.
For sure. I mean, Jonty, I'm going to bring you in here because this kind of speaks to my next point where I'm talking about Sundowns and the signing that they've made already. And you see Grant Macherman, who's doing well with Ajax for the promotion push to the top flight. He's been very critical for them. And now he's coming into a team that has Slompo Kekana, Andy Lejali, Mabunda, Manyisa, Siabi, Mohomi in the middle of the park. I mean, you got a ton of players. And I'm sure the guy is ambitious, trying to play in a team that's competing on many fronts. But do you see him getting in there? I mean, it's a tough midfield to crack.
I mean, look, if some of the names you've mentioned there, Kekana's getting on a bit, Jali's getting on a bit, Margaman obviously is part of the under-23s. He's a younger guy.
Yeah.
He might look at it from the point of view of he can come in and then sit for a couple of seasons. Maybe they'll send him out on loan. Who knows with Sundowns. And then he can spend a season or two on loan somewhere and build himself up. It is hard to see him going straight into like the lineup for, say, a big Absa Premiership game or a big Champions League game or something like that, with the experience they have, like you mentioned, in the centre of midfield. But obviously, he's been very good for Ajax for the last few seasons, and I think for any player. I kind of agree with what Chris said earlier about, for any player, I never really have a problem with a player if they decide to move to a club for the salary.
Yeah.
Because it's a short career. I mean, if you're going to earn this much a month or whatever it is, and Sundowns are going to pay you more, then, you're going to go there. And I think there are lots of players who've gone there. You could name them, Aubrey and Gomez, one, who sit on the bench. But, I mean, they're earning a salary that's going to look after their family, and ultimately, their career will end in, at the age of 35 or whatever it is, and they'll have that money in the bank. Hopefully, that'll save some of it up. So I can never really blame the player. I think Sundowns sometimes have an issue. I have an issue with them because they kind of seem to stockpile players a bit. They buy too many players in a certain position, and maybe in the case of Margaman, they're a bit guilty of that because he kind of, they don't necessarily, if you look at their squad, do they need another central midfielder?
Right.
Not really.
Right. Well, I guess to their credit, they did buy him and loan him out.
Sorry?
I'm saying, I guess to their credit, Sundowns, when they bought him with Jody February, apparently what happened was they bought them and then, loaned them back. So I guess this credit has to be given that it didn't get in the way of their development as opposed to sitting on the bench and not playing.
No, that's fair enough. They loaned them back to Ajax, and now I presume, they'll be allowed to stay at Ajax until the time, if and when they win the league and get promoted. So whether that's July, August, September, who knows at the moment. But yeah, I do think that the Sundowns are certainly over-resourced in that position. But I think for a player like Margaman, it's a very good deal. We'll have to see how good a deal it becomes for Sundowns in the long run. But if they're looking at it long term, in the fact that Jali's getting on a bit, Kekana's getting on a bit, and those guys will eventually, go on and retire, then it might be a good move for them in the long run.
Okay. Chris, we're speaking about your former club next, where Simon Murray literally probably caught the last flight out of South Africa to go back home. He's the redhead Scottish striker that Bidvest Wits had for a little bit. His impact, if any? I mean, you know, our fans going to look back and think, gee whiz, wish Murray was still around?
When you listen to Gavin Hunt's interviews from the Jonty or from the Super Junior, most of the time he says what his team lacks, it is scoring goals.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have been a striker at Bidvest and your coach crying about goals, that means you failed. And that's as simple as it is. So when we look at Bidvest performance throughout the season, away they look very good. At home they often lose by 1-0.
Yeah.
They draw 1-1 or 2-1, which means they're lacking that extra goal in their team. So it won't be missed. It won't be missed at all. And I still believe that Gavin Hunt needs a goal scorer. We can give him, if he can get 2 of them, can give him 7 goals a season. He will win the league easily because he knows what to do for him to be ominous away from home. So any striker comes at Bidvest, for me, I don't direct them because they don't show up. Even when Mango was there, he was not a top striker. Now we're talking about Mango. At Bidvest, he was coming from the left-hand side and scoring 5, 6, 7 goals, but now he's a good striker. Is the way Gavin Hunt uses them? I don't know. But Bidvest, they really, really need good striker, and he wasn't a good striker. Thank God that he left early, and he was not locked away from his bigger family.
Yeah.
And to be found in South Africa during this period.
Yeah, I had 29 appearances and 8 goals, guys. Sum that up. Always sums itself up.
I think in terms of, I'd agree with Chris in a sense, but Murray, the only way I'd defend him is he had a lot of injuries, and I think this piled up. And this season he barely played. And then the game he came back, I can't remember who they were playing, but I was at Bidvest Stadium and he went down very early in the game with a horrible injury again. So this season it's difficult to judge him because he barely played. Last season, he was a bit erratic. It wasn't a very successful period at the club. And Wits do have a tendency to sign strikers who don't necessarily make an impact. As Chris, you've got Evan the Cameroonian at the moment. James Keane came in, he scored a lot of goals for a while, but again, he was very injury prone.
Right.
I think, overall, it's not great. It's not great, but he did have horrible injury problems, and I think it is best for both parties, especially with these uncertain times, that he just goes back to be with his family in Scotland.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Mazola, any word on Pitso's contract yet?
Not that I know of, to be honest. You know, last we heard was when the coach spoke after the Al Ahly game that he's complied. You know, the contract, he had said before that the contract is 80% done, and he then suggested that he'd completed the other half of the 20%, and now it's sort of up to Sundowns to conclude the deal, because he suggested he signed the contract and given it back to management, and he's waiting on management to either sign it back and make it official by making an announcement, but that hasn't happened. So we all wait. For me, really, it's a no-brainer. I mean, 4 ABSA Premiership titles,
right?
A CAF League, CAF Super Cup, Telkom Knockout, Nedbank Cup, you name it. He's been there 7 years, and he's finished either first or second,
right,
in the 6 of the 7 years. Brought much success. One of only 3, I think, one of only 3 local coaches Sundowns have had in the Premier League era. I mean, his success is unprecedented. So for me, it's a no-brainer, really. It doesn't, it begs the question why Sundowns haven't concluded this deal. Do they have someone up that's better? I mean, Pitso himself did say that he's not going to fool himself. He knows that Sundowns have the financial muscle to get someone who, I wouldn't use his words necessarily to say better. I would argue someone with a CV
competent
that's,
enough, yeah,
glowing than his, in terms of been around the world, worked with, maybe Barcelona or top teams in Europe. But, compared to what Pitso has done, I doubt they're going to find anyone that's going to come in, especially with, South African football experience and a cup pedigree in South African football, that can come in and quickly do what what Pitso has, unless they target a local coach that's done similar, or a coach that's been here before and done that in the past, like a Stuart Baxter, for example. But it's difficult to see that happening. But so yeah, we all just waiting. But for me, it really is a no-brainer. Pitso should get a contract extension, and he should continue his work at Mamelodi Sundowns.
Chris,
I see, just to continue to what Mazola is saying, is number one, it is a question of time, just because like the FIFA with contract with every player until the 10th of June. It is just a question of time. The longer the league takes, he is the Sundown manager and he's going to stay or employee and he's going to still get his pay. That is one. The second, if there is a change, it is the same situation, if guys can agree with me, Ronaldo going to Juventus. It was not about them getting another success. They just needed something of marketing. So if Mamelodi Sundowns have to change the coach, it's not because Pitso did not achieve. It is maybe to get something bigger for people to talk big about Mamelodi Sundowns. Example, bring Maradona to be a coach of Mamelodi Sundowns. It's not about winning, but it is about the talk. Because Mamelodi Sundowns start seeing their brand being one of the big brand. But Pitso, like Mazola said, you don't even have to think about it. No team in South Africa, I believe, can want to afford Pitso. And the two, unless you're Tipi Mazembe, who required, I think, 4 months ago about Pitso's money. Nobody has talked to me from Tipi Mazembe to want him back. But in South Africa, I think Pitso is Mamelodi Sundowns coach. Maybe the season won't finish until September, guys. So we should not worry about Pitso's contract.
I guess we don't know how long this season is going to persist. And on that note, Jonty, in terms of just some more creative solutions maybe from the league and the mother body, any word as to how they see this one panning out, or is everyone sitting on their hands until this shutdown at the very least is over?
Well, they have to. Obviously, it's not possible until the shutdown's over, and the shutdown could go on beyond the 21 days. We just don't know. It depends on the virus, what the recommendations from the health experts are. But looking at the trend overseas, I'm not personally optimistic this thing's going to be over after 21 days. I mean, if you look at some of the examples happening overseas in terms of their lockdowns, if that's your strategy to contain the virus, then it's going to carry on. So I think the league are very much sitting on their hands and kind of waiting. I'm not sure there's much they can do, to be honest, at the moment. There's talk of playing games behind closed doors. There's talk of playing games at one stadium. I've heard talk of playing games, where they have like crazy screenings of every player before they walk into the stadium. But, my understanding is that this thing can sit dormant as well. You can't necessarily pick it up, but someone's carrying it, or someone's in perfect health, but they're carrying it. I mean, I guess if you, but I don't know how you could put together the resources to have that sort of thing where you test everyone, and it's just not available here as far as I know. So to have a safe football match at the moment, it seems quite clear is not possible, unless you're in Belarus. I don't know whether it's safe there, but they seem to be playing. I just don't think you can have a game at the moment, and we just got to, unfortunately, live with a lack of live sport. And I think the league are just going to wait and see what happens in terms of, obviously, April 16, is it? What happens after April 16, and then we have to go from there. And again, if you look at the trends of leagues all over the world, there's no movement forward. They keep pushing the date. If anything, they keep pushing the date further and further away when they're going to start. I saw a report today of UEFA being prepared to finish seasons when the next season's supposed to start, and then maybe shortening the following season, which I guess is also a possibility. I mean, we just have to really wait until it's safe for people to play football, and then we can look at what measures we can put in place to be able to play. But at the moment, it is what it is, really.
Yeah, at this rate, next season is looking like it's going to be a knockout competition, because we're going to be playing catch up with this one, and then just having to, on the tail end of the season, start a new one to get done in time.
Guys,
South
Africa, we cried. In South Africa, we cried for a very long time. No, we have enough teams. We can have a 20-team league where we have 18 teams. This is going to be good for South African football. We're going to have more players for Bafana. Well, this is the perfect opportunity.
Yeah.
Don't relegate anybody, promote teams, have 19 team league, the season gets scrapped. I know a lot of Kaizer Chiefs supporters, the same as Liverpool, they might kill me. Forget that 2019 and 2020 did happen, and then we move on, and then we have a 20 league team. Ajax Cape Town does not have to take anybody to court because they will be promoted, and Black Leopard, they don't have to sell anybody because they won't be relegated. So we move on. Kaizer Chiefs, bite your bullet. Listen, yeah, you can still. We freeze the league. You're not the winner, but we freeze the league, and you can go to Africa. You can play in CAF Champions League.
Yeah, no, well, I don't know. Chiefs fans are hoping amongst hopes that this doesn't resolve that way in terms of the season being written off. But as far as players are concerned, it seems at least the teams, by what I'm picking up in the news, is that they're at least paying their players, Mazola. It doesn't seem to be a stop in salaries. Because we know that, disparity between the highest earning and the lowest earning in the league is quite big. And you worried that with the stop of the football, players weren't going to get their salaries, but it seems like that's still going for now.
Yeah, I think it was this morning or recently that I read a story where the PSL acting CEO is being quoted saying clubs will continue to pay salaries during this lockdown period, and whether games are being played or not, and it doesn't. I mean, I haven't had players reaching out to me as a journalist about unpaid salaries, or I haven't had an agent, reaching out to me about their players, their clients not being paid. It doesn't seem like it's come to that, and I think also, mind you, it's only been a couple of days really, or maybe 2 weeks since the league had been halted. Whereas in Italy and Spain, you're having talks of salary cuts and players being told to accept some type of agreements to not being paid and that kind of stuff, because it's been months of that. It's been months where we know the situation in Italy at the moment. We know Spanish La Liga, where those were among some of the top leagues around the world that were the first to sort of put a halt to their program, as it were. So I don't want to be I don't want to be negative and say we might get to that situation, but we want to remain as positive can be. But if we looking around the world, if we're not able to keep our social distancing, stay at home, and adhere to government restrictions to kick away this virus, then we could potentially be in situations like that where players are among the unemployed. Players have salary cuts and that, and obviously FIFA has spoken about dipping into its funds to help alleviate that. But I don't know how much money FIFA have, but I'm pretty sure it's not gonna be enough for every football league in the world.
Yeah.
I had some point to make there. When you look at Italy, you look at England, you look at Spain, their football clubs during the football season, they do have income in the match days. A lot of money coming either on the stores, ticket buying, which is a season buying, and that is a bit different from South African teams, for instance. Black Leopard does not make that much money that makes difference in their salary bills from a match day. They don't. When you look at Juventus in a match day, they do have their store open. They do have restaurants inside the stadium. They do have all those stuff, and of course they've got a minimum of around. Often each game around 50,000 people buying their ticket to come inside. It's not the same situation as in South Africa. My question would be, for a South African club does not pay its players because they are not playing, what is your loss in income that is going to push you not paying your players? And that for me, it is a good news that our brothers, they're getting paid every month. They should be getting paid because their money does not come from match day.
That's true. They actually don't have an excuse for not paying the players.
If you do have an employment contract with someone as well, which runs until June 30th, which is when most of you have to pay them.
Yeah.
I guess that players will miss out on things like goal bonuses, win bonuses. I mean, that's something that they're just not going to get. There's no games. But they are obviously going to get paid. Your problem will come after that. If you take Maluleke as an example, after June 30th, if FIFA say, okay, your contract carries on, who pays Maluleke's salary then? Is it Chiefs? Is it Sundowns, or is it FIFA? And like Mazola says, do FIFA really have the money to pay? I mean, they have a lot of money, but do they have the money to balance out these things in every league that needs the support? I would think that a league like La Liga, where they've started instituting salary caps, and Serie A, but these guys are on a different level to South Africa, with all due respect, because of the amount of money that's there and the amount of money that the players earn. I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo can afford to give however many million euros away to charity. It's it's a different situation here, so it will become tricky. I think once the player contracts expire, I think it'll become a very tricky situation.
Yeah. Well,
I think I was having a conversation with someone about this, and they were talking about how potentially we could have one of the most, the most quiet, if I can put it like that, transfer windows of all time.
Right.
If clubs have been feeling the effects of not being able to play football, and the season maybe is declared null and void, or whatever the case may be, you might find that clubs, are trying to make back some of the money that they would have lost, and thereby not really going big on signing players. You might have a lot of free agents moving around, but obviously this is just pure speculation at the moment. But it does seem like, from what we've been hearing, the PSL, in some instances, they've got a handle on things, and in some instances you can't blame them, because this is a situation that is beyond their control. Nobody knows when this thing's gonna end. We're trying to follow all protocol, government restrictions and all of that in lockdown, and hoping we could reduce the number of cases and people getting better, and so that life can get back to normal. So for the players' sake, for the clubs, coaches, the employees, the staff members of the clubs all over the world and in our country, the hope is that we could go back to life as normal as soon as possible.
Well, yeah, let's see if that's the case. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time, man. Really appreciate getting your thoughts and trying to keep things going as usual, business as usual, with the podcast via Zoom. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. I see that you're done.
I'm greeting the pretty lady with Mazola there.
Yeah, no, she can have her pops back, and Jonty, your couch
21 days.
back.
21 days.
Your kids can have you back. And you guys can have your data back. Thank you so much for listening.
Guys, stay safe. Keep training. Stay safe.
Podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers, guys. Have a good one. Take it easy. Ciao, bye.